Welcome to another Kōrero Mai, where we just talk to people that you'd see in the street and you wouldn't even notice them probably. Well, you may, but you may not. But behind them there's always a very, very interesting story. And today we're talking with Neil and Gaynor, so tēnā kōrero. Thank you very much for inviting me into your home and into your dream. Yeah. Now Neil, we've got pictures and footage and we've wandered around your temple and your gardens and everything else, but where did this come from? Where did this vision come from?
In 2007, Maharishi Mahashogi taught me in 1970. He taught me.
Oh, you were a student?
Yeah, and then he.
The architecture part of it you learned and started in 2000. In 2000 you started architecture, but temple architecture was 2007.
Yes, temple. Yes, yeah, 2006.
So hang on, I've got to go for some clarity here.
Yes.
So you obviously were a student of a teacher.
Yeah.
So you weren't just on a spiritual journey; you went on an architectural journey as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So, concrete, statues, marble. Why here? Why in a little backwash, a little part of New Zealand that no one even knows about?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is a really good question. Yeah, well, in 2011 or 12, maybe 13 years
What are
ago,
you thinking about?
14 years ago.
Well, that's 2005.
2005, yeah. I have a stroke, so...
He's had a stroke 2 years ago.
Yeah. But in 2007, in Pollock, we started.
We bought land here because Neil was crazy on plants. Rare and endangered plants.
Oh,
and
nice.
we always got these lumpy brown envelopes in the mail from seeds all around the world as part of a seed bank. And we had a greenhouse in the town that was bursting and we needed some land. And we actually looked at land up north, but it was the hours getting there and hours back. So we drew an hour's circle drive time around Auckland and ended up here. And we love it.
1 hour.
It's 1 hour from Auckland.
Well, the soil here is stunning.
It
Yeah,
is,
really
yes.
stunning.
But you've grown temples. You've grown a place of meditation. You've grown a place of reflection. I'm still trying to make the connection between how that came about. I mean, people don't have those kind of visions. They kind of go, I've got the postcard, or I visited India. They don't bring it back home.
Yeah, well, the Stapati taught me.
Yes, we started in 1972 or something, learning transcendental meditation.
1970.
Yeah. And Neil went on quite soon after that to do more study and to teach TM, and I just practiced it because it was helpful.
Undergraduate in geology and mining engineering.
Yeah, and carried on with his normal life, and then became part of Broadway Developments. He was a director of that, so he was involved in the building industry. And then
30 years.
And then when architecture Vedic architecture became possible to enrol in, in 2000 he trained in that. And then the Indian Stapati, the specialist who ran the course, offered to teach Neil temple architecture, which is a specialised, more advanced and more complicated area of mathematics and geometry. And so he spent several years doing that and then thought, well, I want to build a temple because they encompass mathematical formulae and laws of natures and proportions that he found fascinating to know about, and he wanted to see one in concrete. And
I went for a walk, and just walking through the bamboo groves and the plantings you've done, and you kind of go into a meditative sort of place. It's a little journey.
Yeah.
And then there's this rather large statue. I mean, we discovered this huge Buddha. Now, I want to talk about the temple, but before we get there, that Buddha, it's got to be several ton. Now,
7 or 8 tons.
so how did it appear? I mean, was it shipped in? Was it brought? You know,
Bali.
It came from Bali.
We went to Bali in about 2004 and had a lot of fun buying statues. There's a whole street there that's about 1 kilometre long, and there's nothing but statues, and we had a wonderful time. So anyway, we got them all shipped back to New Zealand and trucked in and craned in. And then when Neil decided to design this temple, we were in contact with a professor of Vedic University in Varanasi, and they put us in contact with a carver who did things in marble in Varanasi. So we've got 2 different sources. The original lots were from Bali, and most of those are sandstone and various kinds of rock, and then the more recent lot that we're getting are all marble from Varanasi.
Yeah.
As you walk around the outside of the temple, we'll start at the outside, you walk around, it's so beautiful, it's smooth, it's almost reflective.
Yes.
I was surprised it was concrete.
Yes, yes.
How did you make it? I mean, did you
Many hours. Many hours. It's, you know, hours and hours and hours and hours. I had a PhD in architecture, and
sorry, doctor. I didn't call you doctor.
No. And I was a professor of architecture, and you know, I'm a simple man now. That's for sure. But in 2014, in November or something.
That's when the temple was opened, yes.
The temple opened.
But it took you how many years to design it?
7 years.
7 years, yes.
Did you build moulds and pour? Did you pour it in situ? Were they done somewhere else and lifted in? The mechanics of just building it, they're big pieces of stone.
Yes,
really big pieces of stone.
We were told it couldn't be done.
Oh, really?
And he found a way. We worked with Naria, is it? The company that build the overpasses and motorways in Auckland, those beautiful printed facades and things, and they were sure it couldn't be done. But Neil found a German factory that had a particular kind of plastic that you could mould to make the moulds, and we had to import the plastic and then mill it 24/7 for quite a long time to get the shapes.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yes.
Just to build the moulds?
Yes.
Yes, just to build.
And then by the time the temple was finished, they were ruined. I don't think they could be used again. And they poured the concrete in, we went along and everybody sort of standing there like this, and we took the moulds off and the pieces were perfect. Nobody was sure whether it would work or not.
Well, it's beautiful. And when you go in through the entrance, and it's almost like a reveal, and it's not just all the statues, all of those women,
yes.
the matriarchs,
yes.
fabulous.
Yeah.
But it's most temples aren't open and connected to the heavens,
yes.
and bring the heavens in. Is there?
Exactly.
What's going on there? Why the no roof? Why that connection? It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Are you okay for me to explain, and you can say when
you take your time, Neil. It's all just. I understand what's going on in the process.
He chose that particular temple, and it had to have a roof as part of its design because, as you say, it connects to the heavens. So
high peaceful.
It's open to the open air.
It's high peaceful.
Embodied in that particular temple, which is why he chose it, is all the formula of Stapatjavade, and Stapatjavade is about space and direction and how to use them to create anything physical, and nature uses creative laws to grow trees and human bodies and rocks and all the forms around us, and Stapatjavade is about those rules of nature. And included in the basic tools of Stapatjavada are the 10 directions, aren't they?
10 directions.
4 cardinal directions, the 4 in between, and up and down. So we had to acknowledge up and down as well. And down is represented by the several Ananta and Sapasya are the snake, and the snake in Indian mythology is the depths, and Lord Brahma resides in the depths. And the people have various reactions, and I know it's very unnatural in New Zealand to have an open air statue, a temple. In India it works fine, but anyway, it had to be that way. And one man walked in and said, wow, how did you get that blue light that shines straight up into the sky? We had to tell him there wasn't one, that he was seeing it. So
You brought your own.
he was perceiving some level of energy anyway that most people can't see, and it does celebrate all the directions, including up and down. So it has to be open air. Just yeah.
It's just stunning. I mean, to just sit and be in a place that connects at that level. Do you utilise that space? Do you utilise that energy?
We meditate.
Yeah,
We love it. Not so much in the winter, but in the summer we love it.
And morning and evening we meditate for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening.
And we go to the temple when we can. We've got ourselves all sorted with rugs and blankets and hats and seats, and it's beautiful. It's very, very silent.
And really contemplative.
Yeah, contemplative.
Yes.
As we walk around and we look around, there's some crates hidden in bamboo with a pillar in it, and there's an elephant hidden away here, and I've seen a rhinoceros and bits and pieces. You obviously haven't finished.
No.
What's the next part of this journey?
The park.
Out here.
Yeah.
Out. Did Sharon show you the boundary path that we've made?
We walked around it when we came in the beautiful mist. It was
Yes.
Yeah.
It's quite spectacular.
At the beginning we've got this couple of elephants in boxes, so we'll have elephants, and then there's 3 Nandi the bull, they're called in India, little lying down bulls, one after the other, and then 2 of the elephant god statues called Ganapati or Ganesh.
Yeah.
So that's just the sort of gateway there.
2.1 metres tall.
The statues are 1.1, but they're on a metre high base, and so we've ordered 110 of those. So 2 will be as part of the entrance, and then the other 100.
100.
Yes.
And 10 elephants.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Don't do things by halves. No.
108 round the park.
Yes. So we still are getting the level bases put in for those. So you might have seen little boxes on the side. So they're going to pour self-levelling concrete there. And the first shipment was supposed to leave a few days ago from Varanasi, and then another one 2 weeks' time. So they're on their way, and we'll crane those in. And then every 4.5 metres there'll be another pair of statues. So you walk along, and we're sort of hoping that it'll be kind of a meditative experience. And they're tall, and then we've got 2 rows of flaxes which will come up 2 or 3 metres, so it'll be like walking through a passageway. And then at the end there's a lovely view, so we break for a view, and we're doing some tiling, and so we'll put seats and a few more statues.
You're talking in terms of walking through, and when we did make our way around and we just quietly walked, there was a row of statues that I'm sure were kaitiaki or guardians.
Yes.
Not aggressive, but it was kind of like there was almost a challenge as you go towards the temple, because I didn't know where the temple was. There's a row of these blokes that are quite, they're quite intimidating.
Yeah.
Well, there's 110 of those we're getting.
Yeah, 8 Ganapatis.
Yes, there's 8 going to the temple, but we've got bigger. Those ones were made in Bali, and the ones we're getting from India are marble, red marble. So we've got the red concrete, and they're 2.1 metres tall, and you will walk through 108 of those. 2 at the beginning, and then 108.
It was interesting for me, walking through parts that were contemplative and quiet, and then coming across that was almost like a challenge.
Yes.
Is it designed that way?
It's a good challenge. It's really a challenge.
He's the protector, and he will let nobody pass who isn't worthy. And walking, there's 8 going to the temple. There's 4 piers, and each pier is supposed to remove 1 level of impurities.
Majjhima, and
yes, you know the Sanskrit terms. But anyway, deeper and deeper levels of impurities or distractions are removed as you walk through there, so that you're prepared for the temple. And then we feel that walking around there will just help calm the mind and remove obstacles. Every Indian household has a Ganesh or Ganapati, the same thing, over their doorway or in their car or somewhere. He's a protector, because he says, stop, don't come here unless you're safe and can be trusted. So we just feel that it will be a very meditative experience walking around.
They were pretty much in your face. It was like, well, this is very challenging. I like it. I want to touch on a couple of things. There's the meditation and your journey with that. But Neil, in particular, you've gone from what's obviously been a very busy life, and
Yes.
I'm assuming you took on the meditation or followed that to have that balance.
Yes.
You've now suffered a stroke or a couple of strokes.
A stroke.
A stroke.
Yeah.
In terms of that, how do you reconcile the busyness that you've left behind and what the stroke's done for you within this dream, just within the way you process the dream and what you're building here?
Two years ago, or most 2 years ago, I was in Gaga land entirely, really entirely. 7 months of just, it's just.
He was a zombie,
It
really.
really is, really a zombie. Not a zombie for sure, a real zombie.
Wow.
Really, it was dribbling and everything like that.
The classic symptoms of a major stroke.
Yeah,
Yes,
really
yes.
massive stroke. Really massive stroke, actually.
Were you conscious within that?
Yeah, I was conscious of
He
it.
knew what had happened.
Yeah, but the physicality is just beyond belief ghastly. Really beyond belief ghastly. It's just
You couldn't talk or swallow or move to start with, but the next day you were up and doing things a little bit, but
yeah. And then gradually I'm coming back.
Yes. Is the temple, is the whole journey here part of the coming back, and how do you work that with your rehabilitation?
Well, in 2014 I was great. I was very good. In 2015 and 2016 I was, I was a professor of archaeology.
architecture.
Sorry, architecture. Gosh.
It's all good. It's all part of it. Yeah.
And it's an Australian building of MVRI.
Maharishi Vedic Research University, yeah, we're part of that. There's 4 directors of that, and he was firing on all cylinders and designing and researching, and that's what his plan was. So your plan got interrupted.
Yeah, really interrupted. And then, but somehow it's all right. It's in Gaga land for sure, but it's somehow all right. It's I don't know what to answer that, but it's somehow it's all right actually.
Is it because of the reflection of what you're doing around the temple and other things that it is all right?
Yeah.
Or is it just that
Yes.
Neil just goes, it's okay?
No, 2 parts. It's really okay, and it's blissful about 80% of the time, and then suffering 20%, really suffering.
Sounds like relationships, sounds like politics, sounds like many things in life. 80%, 20%.
I know.
Probably right.
Gaynor, from your perspective, having a partner that's often in life, you'll hear of someone chasing a dream and it's a big boat and I'm going to sail around the world or I'm going to climb Mount Everest, whatever it is. Often the partners are dragged along or they push them away and go, you go and do that, I'll still be here when that's over because I'm doing some other stuff. How's the journey been for you?
Well, we both learnt to meditate at the same time, and we were both, for a long time it was Neil's thing. He did learn to be a teacher and I just did the TM because it was helpful, relaxing. But then we both continued, but were interested and researched more and did more courses. And I actually did Ayurveda, which is the Vedic system of health, of medicine, and practiced that for quite a few years. And when Neil did his Tapatya Veda, which is the architecture. So we've shared a similar vision with slightly different angles. And in 2014 I did this Tapatya Veda training as well to help him, because in his retirement he planned on working more on researching and designing Tapatya Vedic buildings. That's his great love. And I think it's actually the basic health treatment anyway, because where you live affects how you feel, where you sleep. The proportions around you, the orientation, the placement of rooms, they have a deep impact. And I was interested in going to a marae once and having it explained to me that the marae is a body with a mouth and an anus, and there's different functions to different rooms, totally Stapatya Vedic. And Neil designed a Kohanga Reo in Glen Innes and explained to the Maori elders what Stapatya Vedic, what use it had, and how it would make these little mokapuna living in the laws of nature more lively and more coherent. And they got it. They knew exactly what he was talking about. And Son, who worked for us, Sharon's husband, he said he could feel the mana halfway from Waiuku to here, and we would do our Vedic ceremonies, and he would do karakia, and he would chant, and he said he felt that it enlivened the spiritual side of life, not just Maori, not just Vedic, but a spiritual side. So he got it completely. And I think there is a level of wisdom in all cultures that they all share because it's true. And it's got different flavours in different countries and times in history. And so we're both very interested in the same things, to answer your question. So I was beginning to join him more fully in his research anyway, and then he had this terrible stroke, so that was a turn in the journey, and there was a lot of grief and a lot of pain, and now there's some hope, and he's starting to feel he's waking up every day, he can see things more clearly, and he's getting his thinking powers back. So that's life, isn't it?
Well, I see joy in your face, Neil, and that's impressive.
He loves out here.
Yeah.
It gives him peace to be out here. He loves watching the weather, he loves meditating in the temple, he loves designing the park, so we're having fun.
As you were talking, Gain, I'm just reflecting on some of the things that I've been taught through the Wānanga or Waitaha. And there are old stories or mythologies, but they're just stories of connections out of here back into India, into Tibet, into China, into the Middle East, into Madagascar, into South America, into North America. And so that is very, very connected.
Yes,
Of course.
Very connected. Do you think you're waking up some of those old memories?
Yes.
That's really why you built the temple.
Emphatically.
It's interesting. Can I tell them a bit about the background of the temple?
Yeah.
The Vedic view of the universe is that there's a level of existence that we can't see. It's not physical, but it's more important and more powerful than all the physical expression, which is just an expression of that underlying pure intelligence. And the Vedic view is that there's masculine qualities and feminine qualities to it, and you can't really separate them, but the masculine qualities are things like organising power and intelligence, the more intellectual, and the feminine qualities are more the creation, the protection, the nourishment, the free artistic qualities. And it feels, many people have agreed that for maybe several thousand years the masculine qualities have dominated and femininity has been suppressed. At
800 AD.
800 AD was the last time one of these temples was built, and this temple is to support the feminine principle. It's the maternal, the ferocious, protect your young, the fight for truth, the nourishment, the artistic side of life. And so we felt there was an imbalance, and men have a feminine and a masculine side, and so do women, and everybody lost out when the feminine qualities were suppressed. And so Neil hoped to enliven that quality of the universe by building this temple. And we kind of felt that the temple wouldn't have been able to be built if it wasn't ready to express itself again anyway. So we've had a lot of fun, and we feel that it's a story, and people who go in there can just read it like a novel or like a movie.
Yes.
It was built in the days before people could read, and so the proportions of the statues and the postures and all the attributes, whether the statues are dancing or seated, they all have meaning, and they tell you a story whether you consciously realise it or not, because they're written in the laws of nature, and we're made in the laws of nature. And so we, just like you pick up on an atmosphere in a room, or you pick up on something beautiful, you pick up the story, and it encourages you and teaches you something.
You raised a couple of things there. The first one I'll address, which I think is fascinating, is not knowing what I was walking around, because, and just for the audience, I mean, I walked around before we sat here, and Neil and Gaynor did not give me a guided tour. They weren't here at their home. I got here early, so I got to sneak around a little bit, so to speak. I noticed the statue that was Hapu that was pregnant. I noticed the one with a book looking down and reading it. I noticed how we see, and I noticed the joy and the dancing, and I noticed the standing on the animal or nurturing of the animals. There were so many, and I had no knowledge of those Indian deities or gods. But you can actually, now that you say it's a book, you can actually go in and read that. But what was more important, you said it hasn't been done since 800 AD.
Yep. That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So the last temple like this
Was built then.
Built in 800 AD.
They're all in, there's quite a few in India still, but they're all in ruins, and they weren't discovered by the British until about 1950. They're very hidden away, and we've hidden ours in the forest, so you have to be looking for it to find it. And it is supposed to represent this feminine quality and wholeness, and somehow that was lost, wasn't it?
Yeah.
History lost the respect for that. There's a whole story about the temple. If you walk around, you might see that there's the door which faces east, and then you go around clockwise. There's virtual doors. There's 3 more of those on the cardinal directions. Those are not for humans, those are for gods. And when the British found them, they said, oh, what a pity, some of the doors are bricked up, but they were never meant to be used by humans. And there's a whole mechanics of how it's enlivened. When you build the temple, you get a Hindu priest, and we were very fortunate to have one in Auckland who'd been trained in yogini temples. And he performed a ceremony with a little gold stylus, and he touched their eyes and lips, and that opened the senses of the statues and chanted. And then the intelligence that is the masculine quality in the centre of the lotus in the middle enlivens all the feminine qualities. Prakriti is the feminine qualities.
Paraprakriti.
Paraprakriti is in the middle of the lotus. And then energy is supposed to go out through those virtual doors to the universe and back again, and somehow that enlivens the kind of knowledge that that temple will then radiate out. So then people can go and look at it, and there's a goddess of wealth, there's a goddess of horticulture, there's a goddess of music, and as you go around you see these different aspects of femininity flourishing, and hopefully that encourages it to flourish in the world.
Well, over the last few years there's been gatherings of grandmothers.
Yes.
And the aunties and the sisters, but primarily the grandmothers, all around the world. And they've been interconnecting in various parts of the world because of the importance of what you're already talking about with the matriarchal thing. But us blokes don't like letting go of that matriarchal thing. But I mean, if you go back onto the marae, there are occasions when that staunch, testosterone-filled rangatira is reminded by his grandmother of where he came from.
Yes.
And it's quite humbling. It's quite humbling. And that temple itself, I understood that seeing the statues just how feminine it is. But it wasn't until I walked around the outside that it's almost like the skin, the silk skin, the soft, gentle, feminine silk skin.
Yes.
So it's you've encaptured so much in a block of concrete.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, using the laws and rules of Satya Veda. It's foolproof. You just follow the instructions, really. And this house here is built, we altered it to fit it with Satya Veda rules, and it has to have a fence around it because that's the skin, or the vastu, the protective boundary that gives this what's inside its address in the universe. And so people said, well, why build a fence? It's a waste of money. But it orients the building, and you're right, the outside of the temple is its vastu, its protective shield.
Now you're building there's the big walkway.
Yes.
And the many elephants.
Yes.
And the many guardians.
Yes.
And I'm pretty excited about that. What happens when you move on? When we leave this
Very
realm.
Good question.
And we do depart, and we go back to the stars or wherever you think you're going to go. What's your vision for not just the temple, but for the surrounds? Because you're creating quite a holistic thing.
I don't know actually, because, you know, Reuben and...
We thought first that we would make something that we appreciated, and all our friends in the TM movement and a lot of Indian people come in droves in groups and look at it and appreciate it. And then we felt that there'll be somebody who appreciates it if our children don't want it, and our children may enjoy it as a shared holiday home for some time, and we don't know. You can't control the future, really.
What's life?
Yes.
Wow.
The temple's built to
Is that a
last
question,
1,000
Neil?
years.
Is that a question for me?
Yeah. What is life?
Yes, because that is life is.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no other explanation for it.
Yeah, I know.
And it's all now.
Yes,
So-
it's very now.
And now, right now, not the future, not the past. It's now, right now. So
You're the portal of your present. You're the portal of your past and your future.
yes,
That's
And we
it.
just think, well, if we'd like to do it, why would we wait? Why would we not do it? If we've got the resources now at this time in our life, we create something that we think is beautiful and we enjoy it, that's enough. And
It's more than beautiful, though. I mean, I felt. You can go into buildings, and buildings will feel cold or warm.
yes.
You can look at architecture, which you're very familiar with. Now that I understand, Professor, Doctor.
No.
Just let me be naughty. You know, I understand the joy that you get from great architecture and simple architecture, sometimes the complexity of it. But that's not just architecture. There's something else going on.
It's an embodiment of knowledge. It is. It's the rules of Stapatcha Veda set in stone for future generations to discover if they want. And it was just a great pleasure for Neil to see all these rules printed out. You know, there's numbers involved in the plinth that goes around the base, and the sections up, and the sections around, and the distances out from the centre. And
yes,
every distance in Stapatcha Veda has qualities. And he knew the rules for designing this temple, and he designed several on different scales, and he kept thinking he was doing it wrong because there was one measurement that came out with the quality of death, and he thought, this can't be right.
Mritu
is the word for death, and it's the inside of the wall where the statues sit. And then he thought, well, they're laws of nature, they don't die, but they represent that circle in the layers of circle is time. And he realised that time is what dies in this temple. So it's timeless. So he wasn't making a mistake. That's what that measurement signified, that in the temple is a timeless story. It's an eternal story of how nature creates physical matter out of nothing. And so it is, like you say, it's more than that, than just a pretty building. It's a printing in stone of a set of knowledge. So,
Do you think there'll be more to follow? Do you think others will be inspired? Do you think those back home in India, where this has come from, will be now inspired knowing it's happened in another part of the world? Little Aotearoa?
There have been people who've expressed an interest, and he was training another Stapati that he'd trained with originally in temple architecture, who was teaching her so that another lady could build 10, but then he had a stroke. So there is definitely more interest, and people may go ahead and build more, which is good.
And it sounds like you have more work ahead of you. So I wish you both all the best.
Yes.
Most people, and I'll go right back to where I started, and I don't mean this as any slight either, most people would just walk past you and go, not notice.
Yes,
Because they're so busy with their lives.
yeah.
But I'm sure now if anybody walks past, they're going to go, oh my goodness. It's those wonderful people.
But you can say that about anybody, can't you? Everybody.
It's anybody at all.
Everybody is special.
Find their story.
Yes. Good on
Find
you.
their dream.
Good on you. You're doing this.
Yeah. But not everybody builds their dream. It doesn't always manifest.
7th Dan black belt is
Yes,
very
what
good.
you.
Right. Do you know one?
You've inspired people all your life. It's
Well,
wonderful.
thank you so much for inviting all of us into your dream, into your tangible dream, and into the very heart and mind of why you're doing this.
Yeah.
So kei te mihi ki a kōrua, he mihi aroha ki tō mahi nui So I greet you with all of our love and for the wonderful work that you've done.
It's a
Take
pleasure.
care.
It's lovely to talk to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys.